Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my Daily Dose with Tim. Today is season 2, episode 54. And so, incidentally, that also means that we are on part 7 of our current multifamily case study under the income property strategy. So, over the last few episodes, we actually went through maybe making some tweaks on increasing revenue and attempting to decrease some expenses, which based on the examples we were successful at, maybe not by much. However, it really gave everybody an idea in terms of how even just small changes in the improvement of our assets performance, our NOI improves, and as a result, our cap rate improves. And if we have a standardized and preset market cap rate in place by the lender, then what that also means is from a performance approach. Performance, by the way, performance approach as opposed to what we usually know as the brick and mortar approach. And so when it comes to multifamilies, a lot of times, yes, brick and mortar appraisals are done, but it really is done more on the performance side of things. And funny enough, it's really no different than us on an individual levels looking to get qualified for mortgages, because at the end of the day, the lenders are always assessing our ability to debt service. And this is what it brings us to now that we've actually looked at the first few components, which is revenue, expenses, that'll give us expenses, and that'll give us the NOI. And after NOI, we need to factor in our debt service before we can calculate our cash flow. So again, today we're not going to go into cash flow or cash on cash return or even return on investment on the whole deal, because we're focusing on this next component that is coming up right now. But just keep in mind though, at the end of the day, if the debt servicing scenarios that we are planning to do is going to put the asset into a negative cash flowing position, then either we're not doing it right or this is not the right deal to continue to pursue. However, given the NOI on this property, I have some confidence that it's going to be just okay. All right, maybe more than just okay. So let's take a look at the first scenario here. So the first scenario, as we already mentioned, is that once you've got the new set of numbers, let's just say that this is 1 year into the deal, and assuming that you have the funds, or you had the funds as well as the qualification to get into this deal in the first place. And so upon refi, funny enough, when we said upon refi, we also set the parameter of 25% money left in there, meaning we can only refi up to 75% loan to value. So 75% loan to value on 1012 on the new value, 641.08. Okay, basically means 1012 641.08. I'm doing this a lot with everybody just so that, remember, I keep on emphasizing it's the thought process that really counts. Do I have a spreadsheet or multiple spreadsheets that will calculate stuff like this? Absolutely, because I know that's been one of the questions that a lot of you guys are asking. And so there are spreadsheets everywhere. Even if you just Google how to for a spreadsheet on how to calculate income properties, multifamily or single family, you're gonna find a whole ton of them. But that's not what my Daily Dose with Tim is about. What I really want to walk everybody through is really be very clear on the thought process and the steps and how one number impacts the other, and more importantly, the interpretation of what the numbers mean to each of us individually. Okay, so we've had that number now, so multiply it by 75%. That means we get to pull out 759,480.75. Now, the original scenario in terms of financing was also 25% down payment, so 75% loan to value at 25 years and 2.59%. So we're not going to go into, what the refi fees are going to be today, or maybe even penalties and all the other legal admin fees right now, because what we're really purely focusing on is the debt servicing ability of this deal right now. So we already know that upon the initial acquisition or the purchase of the property and going through the 1 year stabilization period, we can qualify for pretty much the same term. So I'm gonna bring everybody to RateHub again. And if you remember, RateHub is not exactly something that we would use, but this is just make sure that you use some sort of calculators that your mortgage broker is suggesting or your bank suggesting that you use when it comes to figuring out some numbers. But right now, we're really just focusing on getting the numbers and comparing apples to apples, because this was the mortgage calculator that we used. So in this particular case, I'm going to go into renewal or refinance and type in the amount $759,480.75. Okay, so let's say the amortization period before we had 25 years. When we're doing a refi, we also get 25 years. However, there are possibilities, depending on the lenders, on a commercial or multifamily unit, to go up to, at least in Canada right now, 40 years amortization. 35 is not unheard of. 40 years available, however, not common. 30 years still, 30 to 35 years still relatively common when it comes to multifamily, but it all comes down to your cash flow, meaning your debt servicing ability, as well as, if you remember when we were going over the KPIs in the earlier episodes, your coverage ratio as well. So when it comes to rate, we're just going to say, hey, you know what? It's a year from now. Right now, when we first bought it, it's 2.59%. Let's just say that we take a very positive and optimistic view about the economy. Chances are the rate's going to go up. Okay, chances are. It could stay the same. I don't know. And remember, when we're doing customized rates, I don't really care what's showing up on top right here, because a lot of you guys can see select rate, type, term, location. Don't worry about it. I'm just going to put in 3% as opposed to the 2.59 that we had earlier. Okay, so what this means now is, on a monthly basis, we have, as you can see, a mortgage payment of 3,594. 3,594. So I'm going to come back to the whiteboard here. I'm going to write that down. And so we have debt servicing of 3,594 on a monthly basis. Okay, 3,594 on a monthly basis, multiply that by 12. So what that works out to be is 3,594 times 12. We have an annual debt servicing of 43,128. So what that means is the new annual cash flow is your NOI minus your debt servicing. Probably should do that. There we go. 128. That'll give us 15402.7. And so if we want to do a monthly number, see right here, we have a monthly cash flow of 1,283.56 in this particular case. But actually, I'm just going to round down by 1 penny. I hope that's okay with everybody. And so, how significant is this number? Well, first of all, very, because in the beginning, when we were running our original numbers as is, okay, when we were running our original numbers as is, let me find my notes here. Okay, I believe we had a monthly cash flow of, let's put it this way, where am I gonna put it? Okay, I'm gonna use a different color, of 1026.83. So I want to just make sure that everybody's memory is recalled properly. I know the last few episodes went by really fast, even though they were not short episodes either. But I just want to make sure that everybody's memories recalled properly and we're all on the same page. The property as is had a cash flow of $1,026.83. Since we took over, remember, we have not invested in any sort of capital allowance or capital improvement, meaning we have not done renos, big or small. All we did was raising the revenue based on what the fair market rent is, but we go below that because fair market rent probably usually indicates what the fair market rent potential could be if your unit was up to date and competitive to, let's say, maybe some of the newer buildings and nicer units out there. Okay, so we went from 710 on average per unit per month to 800, and so we were able to raise our revenue. We increased some laundry revenue as well, and our vending machines. And on the flip side, we also decreased our expenses by just a tiny bit. Just a tiny bit. I believe the difference was not even $1,000. However, if you look at it now, this is a difference of $257 on a monthly basis. Okay, so that's pretty good because it is hard for an average person to get a $250 per month raise. Okay, so in case you've never done that math before, and it's funny because this is a conversation that I've had with a friend of mine who is still working at a very decent paying corporate job. And so they're making $85,000 as their base salary. However, because of COVID, because of the Canadian economy, because of the global economy, they have not gotten good raises in the last 5 years. And so the other day we were kind of joking that, hey, what if, let's do some math just so that people can really understand the power in learning all of this stuff. Because we always say that this ultimately is about taking your financial future into your own hands and into your control and making sure that you're financially well and financially happy and financially secure. This was never about making millions and millions of dollars. Obviously, if you get the concept and you get all the principles of what we're teaching here, absolutely, it's easy because once you're able to create and acquire cash flowing properties and learn how to improve the performance and do the refi process, make your money recycle and continue to work for itself, absolutely, that's a simple goal that you can set for yourself to create multiple millions in portfolio revenue. In portfolio value. However, what we're really focusing on is to make sure that you understand what this means to every single person who was never exposed to this growing up. So let's go back to the $85,000 per year on base salary example. Okay, let me write this down here. $85,000 in salary per year in salary. So I said, so let's say, for example, if you get a 3% raise, and my friend automatically just bursted out laughing. They're like, 3%, oh, I don't even remember when was the last time I got a 3% raise in the last 5 years. So, but let's just say, you know what, we're optimistic, even though it's not something we have control over. So, because this is what a lot of people are waiting for. They hold out and they stick to a regular job and just to hopefully year after year, they get a little bit of raises. So what that means is that 3% translates into an additional $2,550 a month. And at this tax income bracket in the country that I live in, which is Canada, and I understand a lot of you guys are watching from the UK, from the US, from New Zealand, from Australia, from Hong Kong, from Singapore, some of these countries that I just listed out, your taxes are even crazier than ours. So what that really means is your after tax take home is probably, let's just say that 50% of that. Okay, so you are actually taking home $1,275 and you divide that by 12 months. That means $1,275 divided by 12. That means you're actually really only getting a difference of $106.25 per monthly paycheck at that point. And so again, if that's not even happening and you have the ability to acquire a building where you can increase your own cash flow by about $257 on a monthly basis, that would be super amazing. Okay. And remember, in the last 2 episodes, we also talked about the fact that it is not just the fact that your cash flow went up, the overall value that is now sitting in your portfolio also went up by roughly $280,000 in this case. So you're really feeding into the 3 different income buckets that we're talking about here. So when it comes to a passive income properties, in this case, obviously cash flow goes into passive and your equity gain goes into your portfolio income or your equity income, and you're feeding your earned income bucket by staying in your JOB. In that particular case, that's totally fine because your livelihood does not 100% hinge on your job and how much they're paying you, or even whether or not they're going to be keeping you. So that's ultimately what we are talking about here. Okay, so I just want to really equate that back to, even though we only raised the cash flow by about $250 something a month, that is a huge step. Okay, and I understand that not everybody makes $85,000 a year. I mean, if your household, if you're a household of 2 incomes, 3 incomes, maybe combined, you might be able to get a bit of a better raises or higher increases in income on an annual basis. But for most households, that is and has been proven to be not the case. Okay, so with that said, what we're looking at now is whether or not this deal is still cash flowing, because it is definitely the #1 priority. And we've just proven it to be a cash flowing deal at 1283.55. So that's great. And so what that also really means is the fact that upon refi, if you remember back in, I believe this was now episode 52. Episode 52, I'm going to write it down on the side here. Episode 52, we talked about the fact that upon refi, okay, what that means is we've put in $724,000 to buy the property, and let's say our acquisition cost came out to be $41,720. So this was 765,720. The net difference now is we are now leaving how much money in the deal? 759,480.75. So we are leaving, this is going to be interesting. We are leaving 6,239.25 in the deal. So anybody wants to do a cash on cash calculation? If we are still cash flowing 15,402.7, and then this is the amount of money we are leaving in the deal. 402.7 divided by 6,239.25. This is 246.87% cash on cash return. Okay, so this is why I keep on emphasizing the fact that I know a lot of people, they always talk about cap rate and all that kind of stuff, but to me, NOI is definitely where it's at first and foremost. The cap rate just really helps you predetermine what your potential refi value can be. Okay, when we go into single family home case studies under income properties, we're going to talk about the fact that that value is a lot more easy to find, however, less forgiving in general. Again, pros and cons when it comes to bigger properties versus smaller properties, like everything else. I'm not saying that one's better than the other. It really just comes down to your risk tolerance, your personal journey, your goal, and the markets that you're in or the markets that you want to start in. As much as we always teach the fact that it should be why goal S&P, meaning let your why come up with the financial goals that you want to hit, and let your financial goals dictate the strategies that you want to do that will help you achieve your financial goals in the timeline you want to achieve them in. And then let your strategies dictate the market. Then you look for the properties. I understand for some people, especially when it comes to the first 1 or 2 deals, it's still very difficult. And so I know a lot of you guys are going to still attempt to see if you can leverage the formula that I've been sharing with you in your home market. And if you're lucky, maybe it will work. Or if you do find a highly distressed seller or highly distressed property, you might have some opportunities there regardless, okay? And so the point is though, remember, we're just leveraging real estate as our vehicle here. This is really ultimately about how money works, which means how numbers work based on the due diligence that we are able to gather. Okay, so today's episode is basically it. So what I really wanted to cover is just, let's say if we just use traditional typical financing, very simple, very straightforward, you have the ability to qualify for it yourself, then no muss, no fuss, regular debt service, and then you're gonna enjoy your cash flow as well as a very, very healthy return on investment, or in this particular case, because we haven't exited the deal yet, a very healthy cash on cash return. In the next episode, we're going to go into factoring in what if you actually did not have any resources to get into the deal. Okay, then that's where we can get a little bit more creative too. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Once again, I will see you at the next one. And thank you so much for sharing these episodes with those who you think can benefit from it. I will see you at the next one. Live well, everybody.